Welcome to a game between Pootis in red against Riposter here in blue, starting with an engineer commander with a sling as blueprint and cloaky bots. And he's going up against Pootis, who with a recon commander and hovercraft. So yeah, Pootis requested this replay, and yeah, he wondered how we would fight cloaky bots and stuff like that. So yeah, let's see here. I typically like to start with one constructor on this map. Meanwhile, Riposter is doing a little bit more aggressive start with just glaives. So yeah. And yeah. So yeah, wind is decent up here on the high ground. It's 0.4 minimum, so it's decent, but you can still go down a bit, so wind can be a little bit unreliable early game when you're tight on energy margins. But right now the income is fine. And he starts by making a Lotus here, which can be a decent idea. Personally, I think that's a bit defensive, because you probably want to scout the enemy. But in this situation you could say it's a good move, because the enemy is making so many glaives here. And however really struggle early game if you face like glaives, you need like 3 daggers before you start one-shotting glaives. So yeah, you kind of want to do that. You kind of want to ball up like this. So let's see the micro here. If you like, the glaives turn fast while the daggers turn slowly, so you need to be really careful with how you position your daggers and micro them. And here you run too far in and you're up against a cliff, and yeah, you kill one glaive and you lose a lot of daggers. That was a really bad engagement. You don't want to get cut down, like you want to be careful against his position. So this is a really bad start for Pootis. He lost 400 value while Riposter only lost 195, so this is really bad position to be in. Potentially this glaive could run up against these daggers, but yeah, Riposter is a bit careful here against up the ramp. Yeah, and you also want to be careful how you move, how you use the ramps like this. And he chooses to go in against his Lotusers to kill the Lotus turret. So yeah. And yeah, but it only gets the Lotus turret. And that's after decent, you manage to salvage the situation a bit, but yeah, getting caught out like this in a position like this is really bad. It's really tight how you turn your hovers, your daggers. So yeah, you generally want to be careful early game when you have few daggers, and you really want to ball them up and have like, when you start to get in 5-6, you can engage them more. And if you ball them up, you can sort of like, you kill one glaive and the other glaives try to catch up and you kill the next glaive. Yeah, and if you ball them up, you generally have a much better situation, because you will one-shot them. If you spread them out on the line, you will typically kill a few of the daggers. But as you can see here, that the expansion patterns, yeah, you're not too far behind. Like the enemy still has managed to get ahead a bit in expansion, and you're kind of behind here in expansion. You're being a bit safe here, making Lotus turret here. So yeah, your movement out of this position was kind of slow, and you risked it by losing these daggers. So yeah, you really want to be careful with how you move out on the map with daggers and defend. Also, if you can put the Lotus turret here, it will protect the entrance. Like, the daggers can only like place here. So in this situation, this is a bad situation. You don't want to engage a line of daggers against a line of glaives. You could potentially ball up. It's better to ball up and try to work the sides of the glaives. So in this situation, you don't want to engage in a line. Meanwhile, Riposter is getting imps, and that's also a thing you have to be scared about. If you ball up, you risk getting all your daggers hit by them. So it's a bit about radar coverage. If you have radar coverage, you want to see if the enemy places down units like this, and if you see an imp being placed like here, you could be able to know that. And if you see here, this if you're watching, you should see this imp disappearing on the radar. So in this situation, if you shouldn't be expecting imps, because you have seen the enemy position and you should know there's no imps there, and then you want to ball up. Still, if you solve this imp, you want to probably place like a pointer here if you see a dot disappearing, and then you know there's probably an imp there, and you can send one dagger there to kill it. And here you have a really bad engagement. You're spread out on a line, and there's basically even numbers of glaives. You manage to salvage it a bit, but by driving through them. But you can see that attrition values, you could have a much better engagement. This should be where daggers shine against glaives, when like you have a ball of daggers, and if you don't fear imps, then you can spread out, and yeah, you have a much better engagement. Meanwhile, you're getting mace, mace is fine against them. I like to just keep spanning daggers in a situation like this. And here, maybe you could have gotten the counter if you was faster, but yeah, it's a bit risky. Yeah, you barely, yeah, you don't manage to get the con and the start at finishes. So, yeah, question is if you wanna switch to maces, because Ronins are pretty decent against maces, and then they're gonna mostly push you back in a situation like this. So yeah, you moving up into this position could be nice when you see the enemy commander out of position. So yeah, but this engagement here is really like, yeah, I'd say you're basically micro and units wrong, but you're still managing to catch up. And yeah, and you're unlucky to not catch this imp. You could have seen this place down and put the marker on it if you were paying a lot of attention with your radar coverage, but I guess you never saw that. Instead, you're moving your commander here to take these out, and that could be pretty good. Morphing into a machine gun is pretty good against cloaky balls because you don't risk. Oh, and here you make a big mistake. You never saw this imp going down, and you get like 8 of these daggers run down, and yeah. Riposter doesn't quite have enough glaze to kill these, but it still has a Reaver here, and meanwhile you're getting punched by that. So this was also a really big setback, running into that imp. Should you have expected, I mean, if you had been paying attention, you would have seen that disappear on the radar. You can also send out small patrols. If there's no enemy glaze nearby, just send like 2 or 3 like daggers spread out and try to sweep the map. Because even if the enemy, if you just have enough daggers around here, you lose a mace against the Ronins, kinda sad. You should want to get it back and repair. And here you missed this position. You could have been raiding this position. Here you get, yeah, you get some of your daggers stunned. A bit sad. You still have a mace there that could protect them. But yeah, even so you really want to be careful with how you micro. Now your mace is a bit out of position to protect your damaged glaives, but yeah, you still get some damage down. And Riposter is paying attention elsewhere. You're trying to reclaim this Lotus turret, I guess. And you get some daggers in here, and you probably want to send yeah, this is a bit sad that you never got this position. You send 2 quills up there, but you're gonna lose that. And this is a thing you can do pretty easily. You can pretty easily overrun a Reaver here, but your daggers are just a bit too late to reinforce and protect this position, so you're gonna lose that, which is kind of sad. Yeah. And here your mace is kind of caught out of position. It might die, but they still get a bit value here. So yeah, doing run-bys with glaives like this can work. You just gotta... It's kind of risky, you know, where imps are. Like, there might be imps, you could go here and kill that, so... and you need to pay a lot of attention. Instead, you're just gonna run into a Reaver and lose a lot of them without doing much. Instead, if you have paid more attention, I guess you were jumping away with the commander there, you're gonna run into here and get surrounded. So if you had just been paying more attention, you could have sent it up there, send a few daggers up there, maybe just 2 or 3, and try to kill these mexes and slow down the enemy economy. And meanwhile, you don't have any defense here. Like, getting a Lotus turret up on this high ground is pretty good, and then you can reinforce with daggers, but you get this position overrun it pretty easily with daggers. Yeah. So that, yeah, that's pretty nice. So yeah, you clean up this position, and yeah. At this point you made some mistake that will lead you pretty far behind here. Basically getting, you can see how easily you can overrun a Reaver. It's really easy to overrun lone Reavers, and here you're trying to get a raid going again. The enemy's switching to a slower composition, and here you're paying a... Like, if you run into glaive when the daggers are on reload, you're gonna take some damage here. Meanwhile, you like taking out the middle position. This is how we can try to abuse the position. Try to abuse the micro. You get a imp there. That's pretty nice. This is how you can try to isolate the enemy and basically outmaneuver the enemy with daggers. and you're doing pretty well. You should probably try to have gotten these, but yeah, getting the glaives is also fine. You're killing the glaives pretty well. You're trying to trade back in value and getting some value done. You don't quite manage to get this imp. Here you manage to get it imp. So yeah, that's worth it. Sending one dagger to kill an imp when you see it deploying. Yeah, it's stuff like you can do. Now you're facing against like 3 Reavers. You should know that there's 3 Reavers and a Knight there. You should probably be trying to retreat your commander here. Alternatively, you just start to spam Lotus turrets, and if you spam Lotus turrets in the position like this, like instead of 3 solars, you could have like 2-3 Lotus turrets instead, and then in combination with your daggers, you would easily have been able to defend this position against this army. Instead, you're gonna trap your commander, and yeah, I'm not sure what you were thinking here, but this is a really bad choice. You made a solars to overdie these, but this could have been Lotus turrets instead, and then you're just gonna lose your commander against this knight that catches your commander. If meanwhile you're trying to raid here, which can be a good idea, and you're trying to raid these Lotus turrets, and you're gonna be able to finish them off, I think, here, in combination with the daggers, but yeah, you're losing your commander there. Kind of bad positioning on your commander there, and kind of bad choice to make solars there. That was completely the wrong choice, just to get it destroyed there. And here you're running into a Stardust and the commander. Yeah, you can't really engage that position. Meanwhile, they're raiding here, so you're trying to abuse the dagger speed, but at this point you're probably just too far behind. It's starting to look pretty bad when after you lost that commander. Yeah, and as I don't really see, like, you can go for a composition of daggers and mace. It's pretty decent against them. You're mostly gonna face problems from warriors and Ronins to face that. Knights can also be annoying to deal with if they have warrior support, like they're hard to, but otherwise you can usually overrun knights with daggers. It depends on the situation and the positioning, and you're always gonna have to second guess yourself. Where are the imps placed? You don't know where the imps are placed. So yeah, if you have the micro attention with the daggers, you wanna like, you send, if you have a big group of daggers, you always want to try to lead. If there's no enemy opposition, you just want to try to lead with like a few daggers, and then try to have the rest of the ball behind, so that if there is an imps, you can basically, what do you call it? You can basically lead with like 3 daggers, and then if there's any imps, they shoot the imps, and you don't get stunned by the rest of the ball. So yeah, it's always a guessing game of where the enemies places their imps, and if you have radar coverage, and if you see the points disappearing. Yeah, the enemy could probably just have walked up here and killed your base at this position. You had almost nothing here. So yeah, this is gonna prolong the game quite a bit, that the enemy is just moving behind there. Meanwhile, this is something that is can be really effective, because yeah, a Cloakybot player can't really, their only choice to like try to compete with dagger speed is to use imps and glaives, but that's really risky if the imps don't hit. Yeah, then you can basically just run around with the daggers like you're doing here, and just try to kill their expansion and then collapse back onto their army when they go another position. So yeah, so you're doing the right thing here, but at this point it's too late. You can see after you lost your commander, you're really dipping down on value, and you don't have enough army to really contest enemy. This is that these units didn't run into your base is just prolonging the game. Meanwhile, you're doing the right thing. Like, this is what dagger excel at against Cloakybots. Just running around, destroying expansion, killing lone units. You can even overrun lone reavers. You just have to be careful not run into imps. And yeah, if you just have enough daggers, even if the enemy gets hit with 1 imp, you can destroy lone. You're probably not gonna get a whole group of daggers destroy, and you can kill the reavers and the glaives with daggers. So yeah, it's mostly the same thing. Yeah, but at this point it's truly over, so I'm just gonna speed it up from here. What else can I say? Yeah, it's a tricky situation. It's like for the Cloakybot player to have to struggle, like when the early game, when there's like a few, if they rush out like Riposter did, with like 5 glaives, that's really strong against hover, because they don't get any super good units against glaive. Daggers alone, like if you face off 1 dagger against one glaive, the glaive is gonna win. And even against like a few more numbers, when you have like 2 daggers against 2 glaives, you might get 2 hits off, but the glaives are easily gonna kill the 2 daggers and they're making cost, and you're losing a lot of cost. So it's not until you get 3 when you can start one-shotting glaives that you really want to start engaging them. And even then, if you only get 1 or 2 hits off on the glaive, it can retreat and start regenerating, and it turns so fast that you can't really respond to it. So yeah. These are all things that they have to consider, basically. Yeah. So what else can I say? So yeah, basically, you had a few bad engagement with daggers first in the game, and this is like, it's really sensitive with how you mic your daggers. You want to spread out when you're expecting to face like reavers or ticks, and then you want to like bunch up when you're facing daggers and trying to flank daggers, and you want to, if you're expecting the enemy to have imps, you don't want to ball up too much, and you want to like sweep areas. That's the thing you would try to do if you can. You try to sweep areas where there's no glaives. You just try to sweep areas and try to clear them with imps first. You should basically, like, early game you did a big mistake of like getting your value lost here. You got you lost your daggers. You got caught in here in this position against the wall, so you want to be really careful with how you engage. Like yeah, you had like, what did you have, 3 daggers against 4 glaives or something. That's basically an engagement that you don't want to like be taking. If you want to do it, you want to bunch up your daggers and try to one-shot the glaive and try to make it hard for them to overrun you, so that they die one by one when they're trying to engage you. When you get 3, 4, 5, it gets harder and harder for the daggers to engage. And yeah, engaging in this position against like 4 or 5 glaives is totally unnecessary. You had a Lotus turret here that you can abuse. If you have a Lotus turret to abuse, you can really use that a lot against glaives. You can like try to skirmish against a glaive, and if they follow, they get into the Lotus range, and it gives you units time to reload, and Lotus turret is firing, and it gives you a lot more option to skirmish against the glaives. And you also have a constant stream of daggers coming out. You could say that, I'm not sure if this is a meta thing, but yeah, if you by going 5 glaives first and sending out on the map, that gives hovers a bad position, because if they don't have enough daggers to match this position, they're gonna struggle. Here you had this Lotus turret, so you weren't really struggling, and you made like 1 or 2 columns before you went daggers, so you didn't struggle too much. The only bad thing you was do is to engage the 5 glaives here preemptively with just 3 daggers, and you lost them all, and that set you behind a bit in expansion, but not too bad. You see, we're still even here through the early game, and even managed to produce more metal than enemies, so you weren't too far behind. Also, your commander was here, so he was pretty safe. Even if you let the glaives in here, you could jump here with your commander and prevent the glaives from doing stuff, so you were in a pretty good situation to defend her early game. You just shouldn't have lost these. And when you moved up and you didn't see the ping, the enemy imp disappear here, that was it didn't play out until several minutes later, when you ran headfirst into this imp. So that's also a thing you should expect. If you have radar coverage, which you had at that point, you should always try to sweep areas with a few, leading with a few. Like you select 3 or 4, like 3 or 4, you select them to go forward, and you select the rest of the ball behind it, so that you don't run into as many units. So especially if there's no contestants, like there were no glaives here when you were running here, so you can easily have sent a few more first and then the rest of the group, and you wouldn't have run into this problem. And then if the imps don't hit for the Cloakybot player and only stun like 2 or 3 daggers, then you're still gonna struggle. Even if they have a few glaives here, you can kill the daggers. Like, daggers still have decent amount of HP. They still have 300 HP, which is a decent amount really of HP for daggers. So it still takes a while for glaives to kill daggers, even when they're stunned, and that gives your other daggers time to kill the glaives and skirmish against them. And you would probably even have had enough if you only like got stunned with 2 or 3. You would even have enough daggers just overrun a reaver, a lone reaver. That's also a thing about this. This is how it reverses. Like the cloaky bot basically has to go for a slower composition to contest against daggers. They can't really compete against daggers because yeah, they're really gonna struggle. And even then, you can try to run around the map, try to deny the enemy position. You just want to be careful, try to keep track of where the enemy glaives are, if they have enough glaives to. If you like, you should expect imps. You should try to avoid getting your whole group stunned, and make sure you have enough daggers that don't get stunned, so you can kill the glaives in position. It's all a positional games, and then you try to spread out and sweep, and you try to ball up when you know that enemy doesn't have imps in the area, and you can overrun lone reavers. But when there's 2-3 reavers in the line, you want to be careful. And yeah, there's just a lot of things you can do with daggers against cloaky bots. If you just manage to not get stunned by an imp. And yeah, I want to consider your pattern. Mace is fine. You should expect them to go Ronins and Reavers, and Mace does fine against those. If you just have some daggers to distract the Ronins and kill the Reavers with the Mace, yeah, you can push with that. There's no wrong composition that. You can also use Scalpels to try to counter Ronins. Well, not really counter Ronins, but annoy them. And stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot you can do with yeah, try to ball up against glaives when you don't expect imps, and when you expect imps, try to be careful with how you progress. Try to sweep the area first for like 2-3, and if there's no glaives around like are contesting the movement, you can just sweep with 3, and if 2-3 or even if 2-3 gets stunned by a single imp, you should have enough follow-up daggers to kill the enemy glaives, and maybe even kill reavers if you have enough of them. It depends really on the numbers and stuff like that. So yeah, you can try to abuse daggers more, which you were able to do late game where you're running around the expansion and killing lone reavers and ronins and stuff like that. So yeah, good luck and have fun.